Hey, welcome to the Runaways podcast. My name is Cody, and today we're going to talk about some tips at the pre-release that's coming up this weekend. And then we're also going to do probably some ranting about a couple of different things. But joining me today, and you've been on before, but it's been a little while, Pat. And I know you just had some spicy food for dinner. So before we're recording, you're just chugging water to get ready for it. But how are you feeling? How are things going?
No, I mean other than that, I'm feeling pretty good. Came off a pretty good season for ProQuest, and now it's time to buckle down, get ready to test for nationals.
Yeah, you killed it, ProQuest season. Like almost like
Yeah,
won everything, topped everything. Like
out of five that I went to, I won or split three, lost in the finals of another, and missed top 8 of one. But
that is a great season.
But yeah, it was all the Dorothea deck, so I can't take too much credit. Charles is the one to blame for all that.
And Dan, how are we doing? It looks like the plant is getting continually worse and worse every week. I'd like to go back and look at all the other podcasts and just see the aging of the plant. But how's the plant?
Yeah, I wish I knew what it needed. I mean, surely water, but we'll see. I might move it outside if it doesn't recover in the next week or two.
Somebody will do like a time lapse of these for the weeks.
Just the plant.
Yeah, and I even turned it like that's the good side.
Oh,
You don't want to see what the back looks like.
Yikes.
okay, well, we are at a pretty exciting time. I love pre-releases. In every game I've ever played, I love pre-releases because you only get to do them once. I think that's like what makes them like a lot of fun and special. Like everyone goes out, it's super relaxed. There are like a little bit pricing. You get your early packs for the set, so it's like the first time you get to touch the cards. But you'll like never go to another pre-release for that set ever again. So I'm pretty excited about it. So I did want to talk about at the beginning here, since this is what most people will be doing this weekend, is maybe some tips that you have going into this pre-release so people can get the most out of it. Or since, you know, the format's pretty new, maybe just some like what your individual ideas or goals are going into the pre-release when you start opening up your packs.
Yeah, I can start with that. The one thing that I am already looking forward to is these eight packs versus 6, and how that changes the dynamics of how sealed will play, and the 30 card deck minimum / maximum. This is going to drastically change, and I really like LSS's approach to this. Is like by giving us 2 extra packs, we get to like probably have some more powered up decks, and we don't have these kind of what some people would call boring like sealed formats. So hopefully we get some spice from that. So I'm really anticipating that and trying to evaluate in my head how that will come along, as well as just getting to try each of the heroes. I'm going to be going to probably 4 pre-releases. I'm lucky enough to have a couple that I can go to. So there's 2 on Saturday and 1 on Friday night or something. But at least try to, play each deck once. Like I'll usually just, intentionally pick a hero that I haven't tried just to, see how it feels. And even if that just means like trying it for one game and then switching to something else, which is the nice thing about pre-releases, that there's this relaxed casual format that you can kind of, just experiment and see what the new cards feel like for limited. Because we're all relatively new to it. Some of us have been doing some drafts, but other than that, we're still pretty new to the feel for it. So I'm super excited to dig in and really test my part the misfail muscles and see how they do.
Yeah, Pat, I agree. I like trying to, test every hero I can. If I had 4, I think I'm only going to 2 this weekend. So I definitely want to try and win one of them because I like the shiny cards that you get at like pre-releases and whatnot. And plus, it's more fun. I think I agree with you when you said like the 30 card maximum makes the games way more interesting. I mean, just playing like draft currently and like playing the matches out, you're like super cognizant of every card that you play, every block that you make, every like small advantage you get is like a big deal going into like late game if it's going to go to fatigue or not. And so it makes every single turn and decision mean a lot more than some of the past formats where you just like sat down and you're like, how many cards are you running? And they're like 30. And you're like, well, I got 36. So
you lose, basically.
I win the game most of the time. Like you better have some nuts cards, but I really like the limit to 30 that they're doing. Dan, what are you going to be looking at when you go to your pre-release to try and snag one of these events?
Yeah, I mean the other big change is yellows are half as frequent now, right? Or I guess blues and reds are twice as frequent rather. That's a huge change. Like I think we got the 8 packs because we had to play 30 cards, and I think fatigue would have been pretty real if we were six packs playing sealed. I think Enigma's probably like close to unplayable and just gets fatigued every time. But I think 8 packs fixes that. Having more blues and reds fixes that. Yeah, so I think like the power of these pools should be stronger than we've seen before. I haven't done sealed yet, but I've done quite a few drafts at this point. I think the main thing you want to do is figure out like where your power cards are, and to do that, you need to understand how each hero is looking to win the game. It's not anything like heavy hitters in terms of just like doing better math than your opponent. It's very like strategic and game plan focused, I think. Like for new, you spend the first part of the game just trying to get blue cards in their banish zone, and then the second, like mid game, you need to get a blue card or a transcend card in arsenal so that you can pair it with another one and flip and play all their stuff, and that's how you win that game. Zen is kind of just a numbers deck for the most part, but you can do some really cool recursion with his hero ability and the different card effects that put combo cards back in your deck. And then Enigma is trying to, I guess, win through like overwhelming board advantage. Like if one of your auras sticks, then it's like keeping a dragon around, right? You just go plus insane value every turn you get to stick one of those. So I think it's going to be most important to figure out what those power cards are and kind of decide which hero to play based on that. That's what I'm currently thinking, at least. There'll be other things to guide you, like the transcend cards. Some of them are better than other heroes. Like obviously the one that banishes from your opponent's graveyard, that's best and new, right? I don't. It seems like all 3 heroes should be very viable, if I had to guess. So it's kind of pick what you want to play. It's pre-release. It's not that serious. But if you want it to be serious, then yeah, I think spend some time kind of reading over the cards, analyzing, and figuring out like which cards specifically are worth playing a hero for, and just play the one that has the most of those.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to open my packs. I'm going to sort all the reds out of the packs because that's where the power cards are. So I'm going to take all my red Zen cards.
I think that changed the set.
A little bit. I could definitely be wrong, but this is like my approach of how I'm thinking about it. Is like I'm going to take all of my red new cards, put them in a pile, and then I don't care as much about the red cards for Enigma. Only a couple of them, like the waxing and or waning. Yeah.
Spectrum manifestations and
yeah, some of those I might care a little bit about, but like for most part, I want good blues, and then I just want like for Enigma, I need to see how many instant speed go again of the auras do I have, and then. But for the most part, I'm going to look, and if I have a pile of red Zen cards, then I'm probably going Zen, because that's going to be extremely powerful numbers deck. And now this is where I probably differ from a lot of people. I in sealed and in limited, or mainly just sealed, I really like red new cards a lot more than just the blue ones, because they deal damage to the health total. And they banish the card, so they work through both things. But they're not. It's not like you're just playing a 1 damage blue card in sealed. They don't have to respect it as much. But the red one, and then you also just play a reaction on it. Like instead of just playing it like you would in constructed, you're just playing it like reactions on red cards. So if I have like a pile of the banish red new cards, then I'm going that, and it also kind of protects you a little bit from the mirror, which I like. So that's what I'm hoping to open. I'm hoping to open just a bunch of red new cards and play that. And if not, then like a bunch of red Zen cards. I also am probably not going to play very many Chi in any of the decks. I just don't value them very highly in the sealed format. I value probably like 3 Chi myself. Is kind of how I like to play those decks. and then see how many 3-for-7 generics I get or 0-for-4 generics I get, and then how many reactions that I get as well, because I think the D reacts are actually pretty important. And I found that in sealed, the blue D react, while it only blocks for 1, lets you turn on your chi really easily, while also being like slightly relevant cards sometimes. And it's harder to turn on your chi on your opponent's turn without double chi in the sealed format.
And you don't really want to ever have double chi, so
yeah, you don't often want to, because you have to block, because it's it's blitz. Like you have to block and attack, which is one of my reasons why I'm like lower on chi. But Dan, you said you disagree. You running all the chi?
I thought of like 3 tips, and I disagree with that statement a little bit. I think Enigma actively probably wants like 6 in sealed, if I had to guess.
6.
Yeah, I can see Enigma being,
because that's like one of the strongest things you can do is create the spectral shield, swing with it, and try to protect it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're pitching a blue every turn, or 2 blues every turn, right? So it kind of plays into that. Yeah, I think for Enigma, you need to look for like synergies on your cards. Like if you open a bunch of 2-cost instant auras, look for 1-cost instants to pair with that, or 1 cost to finish the chain with, right? But 2 new tips that I thought of while you're saying that. If you can help it, don't play your big blue attack action cards when you play against new, and don't play any of the tenants that buff blue cards if you can help it in that matchup, unless they're like critical to your game plan. Side those out. You should have enough blues in an 8-pack pool, I would think. You're just like helping them so much. Like if they flip 1 3-for-7 early, you're just like dead as soon as they flip, or transcend rather. And then what was the other tip? Oh yeah, don't fall into the trap of just slamming your attack reactions when you play new every time you have it. Like if you're doing that, you're gonna swing your weapon for 1 and then attack reacts for 3. Like you're spending 2 cards for 4 damage. Like baseline, I think it's kind of default to do that, because like you say, ooh, red attack reacts. Like it's actually a pretty bad play unless it's like helping you progress in a different way. So just don't windmill slam that every time you see it. Sometimes it's better to block with the react or save it when you need the extra effect it gives you.
You could make an argument that it's like you're right. It is like a 3-card 7, if you're doing it that way.
Yeah.
But it is also
the 3-card 7 pushing hit effect, right? So it's like so
that's what
pushing
it depends on what you need at the
damage,
time.
right?
If you need to fill their banish, sure. But I've had issues in draft against Zen. I would like windmill slam the attack check. It's like, wait, I'm just falling short every game because I'm spending my cards inefficiently, and I'm just missing off the top.
Agreed.
Just stay aware of it.
Yeah, one of the cards that I really liked in new that it was just the Nimble Strike. Like those were the turns where I was getting the most value on those, like really like long turns, and having those. I mean, you have to get lucky enough to either draft it or have it in sealed. But if you can get those like kind of free go again, it's not free, you have to set it up, but like pseudo free go again, and that 1-for-5, where you're pairing that into your like D-React pool. So like you could go like Nimblism, Nimble Strike, and then into an attack reaction on another attack to go again, like a hiss. I've had some of those turns line up, and they're disgusting when they line up right like that. And I think Nimble Strike is, probably just one of the power cards that I've seen like in the set so far. That's the one I've liked a lot. So that's where I'm hoping to open a lot, and it doesn't really. I mean, it's pretty much bad in Enigma, but it's good in both the other 2 decks, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, one other pretty high level tip I can give is like make sure your pool has a game plan to attack each of the 3 heroes. I think I talked about how to play each of the 3, but to attack them, they're pretty different. Like what Pat kind of reminded me there by saying that when you play against Enigma, you have to have access to every go again attack you can have, right? So like Nimble Strike is fantastic. Don't just throw it at them for 5 damage. You want to save it for when they build a board. Just like park it in Arsenal, right? Against Enigma, you also want like every 0-for-4 is like insane against that deck. And then to attack new, you just side out the powerful blue attacks, like I was saying. Like leave your ninja 1-for-1 or 1-for-2 go again, like whatever they're gonna play that. And if you're Enigma, you mostly want the 0-for-1 stealth cards, and blue attack reactions are obviously great because those don't get banished when you block with them. And then attacking Zen, you just want to, I think you just have to like shorten the game. Like you have to enact your game plan fairly quickly because they don't do like the craziest amount of damage, but it's consistent, right? Like every card has go again. So if you're not playing efficient, they're just going to beat you by being close to efficient every turn for like 4 or 5 turns, and then you'll just be too far behind.
Yeah, and then just like find the turn where you have to block against them and be patient on those turns. Like whenever they have their like kind of pop off turn, be okay just like kind of waiting for another cycle sometimes if your hand allows it. Um, that's at least what I've seen. Because he'll usually have one like turn where he'll get to use like a chi and go search up like a pouncing key and like extend the turn a little bit. But if you can like do enough damage on the other turns of the game so that you can actually take that one turn off when he has his good turn, then you can, presumably reset and then find a better spot to attack.
Yep. And then also keep in mind that like every 3 health you heal with new is another card essentially added to your deck. And like don't forget to gain your health. Like that's like it's very powerful, especially in the Blitz format. And it's why I like the red ones a lot. Is because especially it's weird. In CC you like the ones that like hit the top of the deck and hit the grave. And I care about those like significantly less in sealed. I really like the ones that just say like banish attack action. Like, like banish the thing. And so like you get the heal when they block. They just block and then you immediately get the heal. You don't have to hit both, you don't have to match 2 sources to get the heal. That's like incredibly powerful as well.
Yeah, I think you definitely want some target banish though. It doesn't have to be the stealth cards.
Yes.
Like it can be the attack reactor gravekeeping.
Gravekeeping for sure.
Or ideally the chi card too. Like have like 2 red gravekeeping and one or 2 of the chi that banish.
Only chi that banish. Just like you open 3 of them, you just put all 3 of them in and go. Yeah.
But honestly, if I just opened like 3 copies of any combination of those 2 cards, like that might be enough to make me play.
Just one.
If I have enough red attacks, and that's probably just good right there. A couple hisses.
Yeah, because if you can gain a little bit of extra health with new, it lets you like keep a whole hand on a turn later. Like you're just like buying some points of value for a later turn where you go no blocks and you can go low and then you're just like deal with this.
Well, she's also very good at blocking. Like block 3 cards, throw 0 for 3 that is gonna banish if you block or if you don't block, and maybe heal me a life. Like that's a strong play in this format. The other thing we didn't mention is I think the class equipment are super powerful in this set, so that's also a good way to
bring up equipment. I really like the cloak mechanic in general. We just make sure you know what the cloaked equipment are, know what cards your opponent could have in that particular slot, and it's usually either +1 or prevent 1. Like those are, or like those are the kind of the 2 main ones that but. That's one thing that don't get blown out by your opponent's cloaked equipment. So because that's one thing that's brand new to this set, and if you're really trying to do well at your pre-release, that's something that I think you can definitely take as a big takeaway from just learning and going that in, and make sure you don't make a grave error because you just didn't know.
I think the chess piece especially, like the ones where you have to go to 1 health, like do not make it easy for your opponent to go to 1 health if their chess piece is face down. Like those are like game-winning cards if the game's close.
Yep.
Save your attack reacts for the turn when they're low, or just make it hard for them to go to 1.
Do you think that the 1 health chess piece will like drastically change the way you play these like end game scenarios? Like because like we get these 1-to-1 games in heavy hitters like a lot, like where these 1-to-1 games come up. Like how often are you gonna like hold back, like playing your 0 for 3 when they're at 4, like that is threatening to gain a life or something like that? Like, or are you going to risk it in some of these spots? Like I'm curious how you guys are gonna take that because I think that's one thing that I have probably not done, at least in draft so far, is because I know that I've had those flip up just because
and you just do it when it's opportunistic, right? Like if you do the math and you say, if I present this attack but I could arsenal instead, and if I attack and you flip and it's like the chi one that starts the chi, I lose the game, then I'm not going to attack, right? And like if I have equipment that give +1 attack, that's just gonna sit there until you flip your chest, and then unless like I have to use it earlier, like that just come up.
Yeah. I'm really cognizant about that right now, and that's one thing that I think that I can be doing to improve my game, because in the few draft games that I've played, it seems like it comes up a lot. These one health equipment are really flipping up, either on my side and my opponent's side. But
Yep. And like if you're new, just park your it's not a spider's bite. What's it called? The token that gives +1 as a
the Bang Strike, yeah.
Fang Strike, yeah, thank you. Yeah, like just park that in Arsenal and sit on it until you need it. I don't know.
Yep.
You do what you can.
Cool. Any other tips going into Sealed this weekend before we move on?
I would highly recommend practicing before then. Jump in the Runaways Discord. No, especially like for this set, like you have to play things at instant speed and respond to things at instant speed and do it correctly. And like Cody's saying, like the gaining health on your stealth cards, like if you're doing this all for the first time, there's gonna be so many like what's it called? Illegal plays and incorrect game states and all that good stuff.
Okay. Next thing we want to talk about is do a little ranting. And I will start this off because I have a rant. And I think I'm going to preference this in a couple of ways. But the statement of the rant is I think new is a problem play-wise for the game. But I'm going to preference this by saying that I think new is designed very interestingly. I think new is incredibly fun to play as the new player. And I like overall the entire like feel of the hero. But this hero is very much new is having all of the fun in the game, and you are having none of the fun in the game. And I think discard and hand discard effects are bad for card games in general. I think they're negative play patterns that probably shouldn't exist. And this is how I felt about almost every card game that has heavy discard. It's a little different in this game because typically in other games, when you are playing like a discard strategy, you're kind of, both of your hands are going down at like the same time. And so like, and they're trying to like one for one you and then blow you out with removing your options. And it's over the course of, like several turns, or you're both dumping your whole hand at the same time and then you're playing off the top of the deck. These are like typically how discard strategies work in other card games, but because we draw to 4 every round and we play a cycle game, the discard from hand is actually more impactful here because it's quite often a skip your turn. And because these cards were usable on both defense and offense, when you choose not to use them defensively, and then you're forced to not to be able to play the game offensively because of what happens, you're basically getting punished twice for the same action. And I think this causes some problems for new and how they're designed, because there currently isn't a good or correct answer of how to play against new. A lot of the times, so like Command and Conquer, for example, is a card that asks something from you. And it can be looked at as maybe like a discard effect. So because it does get rid of one of your cards if it hits. However, like you have the option to, and you might be playing around, the card that you set in your arsenal. But you have options of how to play against this, with like blocking with your hand or non-blocking and then losing one card, but still having the 4 cards in your hand to play with. New compounds this issue because you don't know how much to block for. So with Command and Conquer, you block 6 or you don't block 6, right? Like there's obviously correct plays here, and you can make that correct play based on how important your arsenal is, how important the damage is, and what your hand does when you remove 2 cards from it. But because new asks the question of, hey, I'm going to look at your hand and rip something out of it, maybe twice, maybe 3 times if it's like really crazy, but at least twice. They always have that option to. And you don't know how much my attack's going to come in for. There isn't actually a correct answer to this question because it's unknown. There's too many unknown variables. You can't just put your whole hand in front of every time they play a blue 1. Like you just can't do that. Like you can't play the game that way. And you can't always just put 2 cards in front of it because then you get like super blown out. They just pump over it and then they use their helmet and you have no cards, right? And then you lost 6 block. It's like, it's not that you like lost being able to play the game. You lost 6 block and you only blocked for 6 and you took damage. And now you have nothing to come back against them. So they get to keep a 4 card hand and ask you the question again. And then you can't no block it, because if you no block it and they're able to rip 2 cards, or they're able to rip a specific card out of your hand that disrupts your turn, and now you come in and you're either coming in for below rate or no rate because your hand doesn't play. They ripped a blue out of your hand specifically, right? And now you're like, oh, I can't really play my hand. Not only did you lose the potential block of all the cards, but you lost all the potential offense of the card. And there isn't a correct answer to this question, right? And because unless you're playing like a heavy D-React deck, it's like the only answer to the question. But that's not, like, most decks can't play that game. Most decks just can't play a bunch of D-Reacts. And if you're playing a bunch of D-Reacts, then your pressure's lower. They have more times where they can ask you this question. I think it inherently puts a problem into our game mechanic that doesn't have a correct answer of currently how to play against or play around. However, it's incredibly fun as the new player to be doing this. It's incredibly unfun on the other side because there doesn't feel like there is a real decision for you to make. You're just guessing. You're just making a guess, like a random guess into the ether and hoping you're right. And that's my problem with it. I think it's fun to play. I think it's designed like well, as in it's like all the components together feel good when all the components are together to play. But from the other side, I don't think this is like you can't sit down across from New and be like, I have a game plan, I'm going to play really smart, and it's going to work out. No, you're going to sit down and make a bunch of guesses and hope you're right. And if you're not right, the game, like, the turn completely ends and get to do it again. Sometimes that's not good enough. Like, sometimes you still just beat New anyway, or sometimes they don't have it. But that's not great. It's like if they draw stuff in the right order, no deck in the game can compete with them because they can just tell them they can't play the game for the whole game. And then other times, if they draw the pieces in the wrong order, they do nothing and fall over and die. Like, that's not great, especially not in the tournament, right? So that's my problem. That's my problem with New. I think that is, like, it's just unhealthy to have to play against. I know it's early in the format, but that's, like, from both sides. And I looked at bringing New for Nationals, and there's still a chance if the build keeps, like, going out because it's just kind of a problem character in my mind.
So, devil's advocate here, as I tend to be, does it, like, is it something that the decks that we play have, like, become, like, so one-dimensional that they can't operate, like, having one card taken out of their hand, like a deck like say 5, for instance, like that deck probably doesn't fold to New as hard as, like, some of the other decks, like these decks that can just go.
What are you talking about?
It has one blue a turn.
But if you get to go, like, just like 0 for 3, 0 for 3, 0 for 3 snatch, like there are, like, if you take 1 0,
if that's your hand,
like I don't know, like the decks. I mean, yeah, I'm just saying that there are hands that exist that you can have that New doesn't punish that hard. And like, you could have a hand with 2 blues and 2 attacks. Like, I don't know, KO like has some hands that don't get punished as hard by that. Like, I don't know. I think that the point you have is 100% valid, and the fact that you're making your blocks not knowing how badly you're going to get punished, and, like, especially taking into account the mask as well. Like, I think that's the one that gets me every time, is because, like, all right, well, this time I just have to block, and then they mask me, and then I'm like, okay, well, now I did nothing. But that's the one that I have the most issue with, is that, like, you don't know if there's, like, they play their card and you, like, block and you get it wrong and then they cheat. Like, I don't know. Like, those are the lines that I've seen, like, hurt me the most. But I don't know. I'd like to say that we could, as deck builders and players of the game, get to a point where we are not so streamlined in our hands where, like, taking one card out of our hand makes us lose. And yes, there's going to be hands that line up where it does, but I think that New, like, an assassin in general, like, needs some access to attack at, and I think that it is, at least from my understanding, like, not too powerful to exist.
A little counter is just, like, they have 12 attacks, or not attacks. They have 12 cards in their deck that reach into your hand and rip a card out. They all do it in various ways. Too. Yeah, targeted. So they, and then they have and then they have the hat on top of it. And the issue is it's a compound. It compounds. So, like, if they attack with, like, an attack that has 1 base power, and you put like 1 card in front of it, right? Then they go over it, and they go over it. You take, let's say, just like 2 damage or 3 damage. I mean, just a nick is gonna deal you 3 damage, right? And then they rip 1 card out of your hand. Now you're playing a 2-card hand, but you're not playing a random 2-card hand. You're playing a 2-card hand that they had access to look at and pick a card out of, typically, which then would mean that it's the worst 2 cards. You walked with your worst card, then they picked the best card out. So it's like the 2 medium cards that ruined your turn. So now you have to then, with those 2 cards, send back enough pressure to overcome the damage that you took. That doesn't take into effect the banish effect that comes off of it, the healing that they might have gotten, and then the deck damage that they got as well. But then you just have to send whatever you do with those 2 cards has to at least equal the health that they gained and you took. That's not counting the hat. So then it like gets even worse. So like you play the thing, you block with a card, they hit you and they hat you, you have no turn. If you overblock it by 2 cards and they hat you, you have no turn. It's just like, there isn't a good answer here, depending on what happens. The best answer is like have a D-react set, block with 1 card, and they can only go to 7. And then they hat you, and then since the hat is your decision, then you have 2 cards to throw a 6 back or a 7 back out of your 2 cards. And that's like probably good enough there. But then you don't have an arsenal for the next round, right? And then every time they rip a card out of your hand, they are taking less damage. They have more times to find these opportunities to skip your turn. If they skip your turn a couple of times, like the value from that is so high that it can be pretty hard to overcome. It also like leads, if they have like a go again attack before they're doing the trick, so they get to keep a whole grip, you basically can't ever block anything that's not the attack that rips out of your hand. Because if you block the first thing, then they rip stuff out of the second thing, you're taking damage and they're just skipping your turn again, but you are at least getting the block value out of the cards. It's just like, there isn't a good answer here is more of my problem with how it works.
I think the only answer is running like 12 plus instants and D-reacts. Like you need to have 2 available on the turn where they play a blue 0 for 1. Like it's so bad.
And then like
snag is also a card that people are talking about as well. Like that you can
you could snag them
and just return it back to its base power, and that card is like 2 D-reacts in 1 sometimes. So.
Yep. So, but that's still like, that's like 2 your cards still. It's like 1 card in front of it and then snag on it. And snag's still good, right? So they do that, they pump, you snag, right? And then you hope they don't helmet because they still skip your turn if they have the helmet, right? And then if they don't have the helmet, you're still down to a 2-card hand.
I mean, it could be armor.
You probably
snag, right? Armor.
It could be armor. You have a couple of rounds of armor. I agree.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
one
just
fun. Oh, you go.
Yep. Go ahead.
I was gonna say one fun interaction I have seen people not pick up on right away is for Bonds of Agony. If it hits, it banishes 3 copies from your deck, discard pile, or hand. If all 3 copies are in hand, you banish 3 cards from hand. And I have banished 2 cards multiple times. It is stupid.
I was playing KO in the new, and like it's not like this is.
You draw like 3 wild cards you can't block anyway. You just lost the game. Like go next.
It's not like this is not like why I was complaining about it, because like I've complained about this in every card game. I think discard effects are inherently bad for card games because they stop people from actually being able to play the game that they're sitting down to play in a meaningful way of like you just have nothing to play in the card game that you're trying to play. But I just have a Blood Rush in hand. They're sending bonds at me. They have 3 cards. What do? Do I block with my hand so they can't banish all of my Blood Rushes? But then I don't get to play the Blood Rush anyway? Do I put all my armor in 1 card in front and be like, I need a small Blood Rush, please don't get over this? My answer was put all my armor in front in 1 card and then hold my 3 cards, and they just like, just a nick, pump over it, you hit my Blood Rush, banish all 3 Blood Rushes, game's over, and I was like, there's no answer to this question. Like,
it's
just you're just hoping,
kind of cool.
Right?
I realize KO has non-blocks, but like I guess you could also just like block with the other cards in your hand and then try to arsenal the Blood Rush and like.
Yeah, but they have like Arsenal Hate as well in the deck.
They have just and like I guess leave no witnesses, but like
And I think the big issue is their range. Like it's not like Dory where it's like, oh, they have 2 cards. The most they can do here is +4. They could just a nick twice for +12. Like is that right? +5 for +10. Like I don't.
Yeah, plus 12.
Yeah.
Or +5.
Their range is
plus
no
10,
pump
plus
to
10,
like
plus 10.
20 damage. Like it's insane, depending on how many cards they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I think Dory's a good example because like Dawnblade Dory is just like inherently a knowledge check. And this might be one of the issues why Dawnblade Dory has historically not been great for a while, because it's too like once you've played against it enough, you can just know like, oh, they have X amount of cards and X amount of mana available. They can deal this range of damage to me. And if they deal the top end of this, they can't swing again. So like you have like, you know the range and then you get to actually make those decisions. It feels rewarding on the defensive side. It feels frustrating on the Dawnblade side because it does feel like there's an answer to every question. So I can agree in a way that they need to have some obfuscation there so that at least you have some opportunity to do tricks. Like,
But New also has like
the
3 times as many twinning blades.
But yes,
like,
she goes from one. It's like 1 damage.
Oh, you block 9, go again. Like
it's like 1 damage to 13 damage is like the range. But then the other range is go again, a different attack.
CNC or
And
something.
then the other range is banish card from your hand anyway with helmet. So like these are all the ranges of what could possibly happen when they put 1 blue attack on the stack. It just feels difficult.
Yeah,
like
and it feels great when you play new. It's awesome.
Yeah, it feels great. Yeah,
like,
it's fun.
I have nothing in my hand. I'm going to attack for 1, and they're going to give me 3 cards. Watch.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that I think it's problematic. It feels problematic to me, and it feels like it's going to increasingly become problematic if people get better, if they get better cards, what meta it is. And with all that said, New still loses a ton of games. Like that's like the nature of it, but that almost makes it worse. If it was like better than it is, and I know the decks will get better because we just started testing, right? And the decks are going to increasingly get better, which scares me even more. But like, if you were just like, okay, it plays this way, it's this strong, I have to tech for it. But like every time you play against it, it's like a completely different game. Like run them over. Oh, everything lined up. I actually just didn't do anything for 3 rounds. I just put cards in front of cards, and like then they told me I need to put more cards in front of those cards, and then I cried. Like I don't know. It makes me nervous if that deck becomes in any way popular in a meta. Going to a tournament and just being like, I hope you don't have it. But that's my rant. That's the thing that's been eating me up every time while I've been playtesting.
I have a rant.
Oh, you have a rant? No, you're good. Go ahead. Because my rant is not really a real rant.
Okay. My joke rant is I wish Nationals was this weekend because I'm ready. I think they give us too much time to solve this.
Too much time? I think you might be one of the only people that think that.
I agree. No, I want to rant about... I'm not even going to rant. I'm just going to say the thing I dislike, which is these stupid blue Spectra auras that illusionists can just play and skip my whole turn. Yeah, no, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I want to rant about Scabskin Leathers, but I feel that card is more necessary than it's ever been, with how popular Enigma seems to be and how good these 0-cost blue Spectra auras are. Yeah, I don't know. It just like requires things like Scabs to exist because you just like can't play the game otherwise for certain decks. I don't know. I don't need to rant about Spectra. That's been done so many times. I don't like it.
I think Spectra, they have realized their mistake with Spectra. I think James White has kind of said that they realize Spectra is not a fun interaction, and it's also just like a rules nightmare. And I think that we will see less and less Spectra cards printed throughout the history of the game, but because we don't rotate cards ever, we will still have to deal with the ones that they have printed.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's so bad that they need to be banned or anything like that, but I do think that when you have a 40 health hero that can establish these super powerful effects, you do kind of just have to like, okay, we're trading action points here, and if you're getting extra value on your stuff, it's really hard to take those over. So I get your frustration there, because I've played a lot of Guardian versus Illusionist games, and they are not fun to be.
I think they're ban worthy.
You think they're ban worthy?
Yep.
I don't know if that's true.
I've for my entire career, I've never really had a problem with Spectra. I mean, I did play Prism a lot, so that was probably a reason for it. But it was also different. Like, I think originally when people were complaining about Spectra, I don't think it was real valid, because most of the decks in the format had like go wide, go again. Yep. Was like pretty common. And so like you just attack them, and then on your last chain hit the Spectra, and it was like no big deal. because all your attacks were like 3 to 4. I'm not just talking about chain, like chain 5. Like there's like a bunch of like decks at the time, like Viscerai, like all of these decks were all, and these were popular, like Briar, like all of these were like played and like pretty heavy in the meta. Dash, whatever, like all of them could just do like attack, 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 kill the Spectra, attack, 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 kills every turn. That was just the game plan. People hated doing it. I don't know why. It won the game if you did that like every single time, but whatever. But people just hated doing it, and yeah, there were still Guardian players who like still had to deal with the wrath of it, and it'd be what it'd be. But I think, but for the most part, that was how a lot of the decks operated at the time. Was like attack, 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 hit Spectra, and people still didn't like it. But now we have way less decks like that, right? Like we have way less just like attack, 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 hit Spectra. Like for a KO, for example, it's like big attack, little attack, big attack at Spectra. Like, like you're like throw 8 at the Spectra. Like I guess, but it's not like that's not great. Like that's not how how it's supposed to work. It's like big attack, little attack, skip the rest of my turn. And so like it's like way more impactful now than it used to be because we just don't have those. I'm going to swing 2 to 3 times with medium sizes, and I'm just going to throw my weapon at the end. Those decks just aren't popular or good anymore because we stopped printing cards. Like we stopped printing heroes with this automatic go again as often as we used to. And if they had it, then it was in a different play pattern. So I think that's why Spectre slowly, and I agree now, is started to feel worse and worse and worse anytime a deck can like slide that into their deck. And how
but it's also so easy to slide it in, right? Like it's a blue block 2 that costs 0. Like I don't know. Too easy to cast, too easy to...
It does block for 2, which is a liability, like, as well.
I think it should block 0. Like, I don't know, man.
I think it was reprinted, it would block 0.
Wild. Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
It's just too like gripping of how the way the game plays. Like, you can't leave it there. You just lose if it's early. So you have to kill it. So it's like the same issue as new. Like, you're telling me I can't have my turn.
You have to respect the auras, and like, I think hopefully people have learned by playing the game enough that you can't leave them at 20 plus life and leave them with auras in play. Like, I mean, I think that is kind of, standard gameplay at this point, right? People understand that at this point. Yes, it's maybe...
But it's the way you do it. You have to do it, right? Like,
yeah.
It's objectively correct to roll a die to say, can I win this game, please? Can I have a chance? And, like, sometimes it says no. Like, what? I don't want to play that game.
Yeah, like I said, I agree that Spectra has some definite negative connotations. I will not sit here, as much as I would love to say that the
like
game...
the 4 costs are fine. Like, there's actual opportunity cost. But the other one's just like, you block 10 and then slam this down. Skip your turn. Time walk. Like, what? That doesn't seem fair.
We need more Runeblade go again. That's what we need. That's the answer to the question.
You need to get Runeblade back into the meta, right? So
yeah,
maybe get 5 support instead of more hate cards. That could do something. Gravekeeping.
Everyone thought he was getting support. There was a buyout, and then
said he got more counters.
No.
So Pat, what is your rant?
My rant is not a real rant. I came on to be the counter ranter. The one thing that I do wish that we had right now that we don't, and this is no way like a real thing. I wish we would not having to play in the open format on Talishar to actually test these new cards. We all know the cards at this point. We should be playing in the public rooms and not have to play against new or Enigma every round. Because basically those are the only ways you can play those heroes. So if you want to play those heroes, you have to play in those queues. And Jotrick and people at Talishar are killing it, doing an amazing job. This is just a small issue that I wish that I could play against, a more wide range of decks during this format, and that would be a way to fix it, I think. But the people that do the work on Talishar are like godsends for this game, so I can't excuse them for anything.
You should share your feedback with them, Pat. From what I understand, they're like super receptive of that kind of thing.
I know
Discord or something.
I know that, and I post in the Talishar Discord and bug report and all that stuff and things like that. I try to be, very helpful whenever I can be. But I don't know. It feels kind of nitpicky, but these are the. I got told that I should make a rant, and this was the one thing on my mind. So.
No, it's fair.
I
Like
think
they're
it's fair.
doing a service, right? Like if this is what the people
Oh
want,
yeah,
I'm sure they'll do it.
I hate to even say something because there without Talshar, we would be at such a disadvantage right now. Like we'd have to go on to like TTS, and it's like
Yeah,
I
we figured it.
remember
We printed out
playing
cards
on
on no
TTS
cards or something.
like it was so bad. Like playing with we're spoiled by Talshar, how good it is, and how much it gives us,
And just how quickly they work. Like the cards were ready seconds after they were revealed. Like,
yeah.
oh man.
So
shout out to all of them.
Jotrick and to a lesser extent now OOT, but just we can never thank you guys enough for Talishar. So excuse my small nitpick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I saw it on Twitter. Someone said the same thing. Hey, can we just move the new stuff into the normal CCQ, please, so that everyone can start playing again? I'll tell you this: if you go to open format CC with anything that's not Enigma or new, you immediately get a game. Like there's people clamoring. Like if you go loaded there with KO and you're just like, everyone's like, I want to play you. I loaded it with like Kasai earlier today and it was just like immediate games all the time. But yeah, I agree. It would be nice if it could be moved over already, since it's basically the only format and there's no real tournaments. I know their policy is to wait until the official release to do the thing, but there was been a clamoring for it. It'd be cool either way. We're more than as you said, we still owe them a huge debt, irregardless of what they do. It's just it would be nice for us. Our first world problem here. Yeah.
Yes, first world problems for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll play devil's advocate. I like the way it is. Like the first week, I just played nonstop KO games in the open queue, and I got rapid fire testing into the new stuff and saw what was annoying, what wasn't.
Yeah, I'd like to place against some of the decks like Warrior, and things like that. I'd like to go try, and not have to face Leviah versus New every round, or if I want to play Victor or something like that. Like these are like the things that I get to play one game on my lunch hour on my phone, and it's like I'd like it to be something new, please.
I mean, I'd like to know if
it
anyone.
It's something new every time.
I'd like to know anyone who wants to keep it separate for the extra like couple weeks. Like, is anyone getting benefit from that? Like, let us know in the comments or something.
Yeah,
like, surely someone is. I'm just curious what that looks like why they want that.
It's just with especially the way that they did this with the world premiere being like so early, and the cards being out even earlier. Like it's we have had, this is probably the longest we've ever had all of the cards before the official set release. So
I think it changes if there's like battle hardened and stuff though, right? Like if there's a CC battle hardened before release, like you're kind of screwed if they change the queue.
Oh yeah. Because there isn't. But yes, I get that argument as well. But it's just like I said, it's super nitpicky. Don't really look too much into it. We still love you, Talishar. Thank you for all the hard work.
Great. Okay, next we have some podcast questions after the ranting section is done. These questions are asked by members of our premium Discord. If you'd like to be able to ask questions on the podcast, watch the videos that we drop every month, ask the team questions, find people to practice with, in our 1 month coming up to Nationals, feel free to join the Discord in the link below. And then in the free section of the Discord, we have all the drafts, so you can get in there and draft for free. If you'd like any of the other content, that it would be in the premium Discord. Okay, first question here from Millen is going to be, with the new card Visit Goldmane Estate and the new meta, do you think the better deck building choice for Victor is to be more aggressive, or will Victor out of the picture for national season? So is Victor out of the picture, or do you think he should play more aggressive with the new card?
It's a great question. I will say that I haven't played a ton of Victor games yet, but just looking at the card in a vacuum, I think that it does lend to some more aggressive play. I've seen people talking about Crown of Dominion just so you get to start the game being able to cast it for value, because you'll have the gold that you start with and the gold from the shield. So like that seems quite powerful, and you could probably take that approach and have success with it. But from my experience, Victor tends to be this grindy like deck. So that's where I would start and see how I can weave that card into my deck and um, make it good. It's just also another card that doesn't win clashes. Like, and I'm worried if I was going to put that card in my deck that it would mess up my numbers.
But it helps you win clashes.
It can, yes.
Balance is out now.
In theory, yes.
Got bad news for everyone. Sorry, Pat. What was the?
No. Whenever you reveal off the top of your deck, it does not win clashes.
Yeah. Correct.
Yes.
Got bad news for everyone though. This card makes Victor even better into the things that it already wins all the clashes into, and does nothing, basically, for the decks that it doesn't do that into. Mm-hmm. Victor is a very good deck when you win your clashes. When you win your clashes, its value is great. When you're playing it aggro, it is incredibly powerful, especially with the on hits and being able to keep a whole hand, and then you get to block and then play a 5-card hand on top of it. All these things are very strong. When it doesn't win the clashes, the deck sucks. It's just terrible. It's like one of the worst decks in the game when it doesn't win clashes. It's just, you can't. It's like the 25% of KO games where you're just like playing bad Rhinar. It's like the same thing, but Victor does that every time he doesn't win a clash. So this card is incredibly powerful, incredibly good. It's one of the reasons we tried to have Lucas on, but he does not have good internet. So I'm going to shame him publicly so he can get some better internet. Because he's been playing a lot of Victor. He's a big Victor fan. So I would say if you have questions about Victor, go bother Lucas about it. He'll tell you it's the best deck in the game. But just know that's what he says.
Lucas saying that.
Yeah, that's Lucas saying that. So, but yeah, I know. I think the card's awesome. It's fun to play. It's good. It works in a strategy. It makes you want to play more aggressive with the deck. And so when you're winning clashes and everything's rolling, the card is nuts. When you're playing against decks that you don't win clashes on, you just lose the game.
Yep. I'm still a Victor unenjoyer. I think, yes, play it more aggressive in most matchups. What was the third question? I forget. Card's great.
That's it. Will it show up for nationals?
It'll 100% it's still a huge factor, yeah. You just have to win your clashes. If you're down a clash for a victory, then play it. It's very strong.
Nationals is a huge event, especially U.S. Nationals. There's usually 500 plus people at the this event. There's going to be a lot of Victor. A lot of people qualified for Nationals playing Victor. They're probably going to continue to play Victor. Also, when you have a lot of people bring Victor, there's going to be a couple of those people who won every single clash of the weekend, and those people are going to be like in the top 8 potentially, right? If they're going to draft. But there will be. That's just like how numbers work in a card game. It's like why, I've said this a bunch of times, why the Briars in top 8 were the scariest deck in the game. Because those are the Briars throughout the tournament who opened Channel Mount Heroic in their first couple of hands all day in every single match. And so, this actually tracks. If you go back and watch top 8s of Briar play, like especially in a mirror, you'll see both players open Channel Mount Heroic in the first 2 rounds almost every time because they've been doing it the whole tournament, and statistics work that way, right? Like
no, it doesn't.
It is. If you have a bunch of people, then some of them will hit the nuts all the time.
Oh, I agree. I didn't need the reminder of that happening in the top 8.
Yeah, you do not want to play Briar in the top 8 because they've been running hot.
I did get triggered
cool. There too. Okay, next question here from Robo is, what are your thoughts on Warriors in the MST meta? Olympia payoff good enough to make him a real deck? What do you think of Warriors?
Yeah, I think Warriors very well positioned still. Pretty well positioned at least. Like if you like Warrior, I see no reason not to move ahead with it. I don't know anything about Olympia, man. Maybe. I think you have to innovate with this new card. Like it changes things quite a bit. It's a pretty crazy effect. Like from my understanding, Taylor like dominates Ultimate Pit Fight format because she's able to get extra equipment in the game. But yeah, I don't know. I think Warrior's like pretty well situated. Like New's not great into her. Like she's not playing your blue cards. I think you can be somewhat annoying for Enigma. Like just having 2 weapons is big game. Yeah, I don't know. I think Warrior's pretty good. If you feel good about playing against KO, I don't see any reason not to.
Yeah, I think historically, Dorinthia, at least Dorinthia that I've played had been pretty well into KOs. I think that the Olympia card is a very challenging deck building, and I have done some investigating with the card. The thing that you probably don't think about very often when you're playing this card is like how many cards you want to devote to sideboard space to play these extra cards. That's the problem that I tend to have with this card, is that like I like having options, and if you play this card, you really can't. You really lose options. Like you're kind of just like, well, do I throw the Kano matchup in the garbage because I want to play Arcane Barrier, and if I don't play Arcane Barrier, then I'm going to lose out on this type of stuff. And like these are the type of things that I was having issues when I was approaching it. But I think Warrior is super well positioned in general. Like just the dual wield strategy with all the good heavy hitters cards is still going to be super powerful. And I think we saw that last season, and it did super well. I don't expect it to fall off anytime soon.
Yeah, it's consistent too. I'm concerned about Victor. Like definitely test into the new Goldmane estate card. Mm-hmm. Like that could swing it. Like it was already a hard matchup for Warrior, and if it's just like bad now, I might not play Warrior unless you feel really good about KO.
I think Warrior's being slept on a little bit. I think it has tricks into some of these decks. I'm talking about like Kasai and obviously Dory playing hatchets. I think Dawnblade is incredibly good into KO, but that's about all it's good into, unfortunately. But I think it's still being slept on. As far as Olympia goes, unfortunately, defensive Olympia with the new specialization just doesn't work currently in the format. And I would say that simply because like there's too many decks that prey on slow decks right now. So you just can't like take all that time to set everything up. That deck is incredibly fun and I think really cool. And I think I could see eventually that deck is like going to be really strong. It just needs the right meta. I would be very curious to look at like an aggressive Olympia who is instead using the equipment like for example, like a Snapdragons, like you're using like Snapdragons to like get edges early in the game and then switching them out for, better equipment, or like another Snapdragons to like be more aggressive again, right? Like that stuff I think could have potential if someone wants to sit down and brew that far. I think the obvious ones of like, I'm going to block with my helmets and then switch my helmets out for more block. And then like, I'm going to play, the Great Axe. And I just don't think the meta sits for that. Like you're just going to lose the Enigma like every single time, and you can't do that. So like that deck doesn't work right now. But I'm excited for when it does work because it's like super cool, and I think that card's awesome.
Super flavorful. Love the card. Yeah. It's super interesting design, and I hope we have more like it in the future.
Yep. Andre here asks, LSS devs said before that not all sets will have or be intended to have a premium draft experience. Do you think a full arcane set would fit that criteria?
I give them the benefit of the doubt that they'll make it fun, but I think from like a competitive perspective, I could see it being a bit of a headache. But we'll see.
Man, I gotta say something here. Like everyone talks about this full arcane set
Yep.
all the time. Dude, I hate the idea of this set already. I have no excitement for an arcane set. I don't care for it to come up. I hope that they just mentioned it and it's not coming out for like 10, 20 years from now. I have no interest in this ever being a thing that exists, but people are like clamoring for this thing and I don't get it. Like I have no interest in this so-called like full arcane set that's coming.
I'm excited to see how they do it.
I don't see how
we know.
Right? You just have all wizards. Like, I mean, like, or is there a new class? Like, I don't know. I just don't see like. And Runeblade like has attacks, right? So I mean, like, I guess you could throw Runeblade in there, but like, it just doesn't seem like it works. Just from there would have to be something drastic that I can't think of how to make it work.
And that's the part I'm looking forward to. Like, I want to see how they pull it off because like they're clearly very creative with their designs, right? Like this chi mechanic is like no one knew it was chi was when they spoiled the 3 dots. Like everyone guessed wrong for the most part, and it plays super well. Like I don't know. I'm excited to see how they do it. I don't like the idea of it, but we're going to play it if it's real. So
yeah, I hope they mentioned it and then it just kept getting pushed off. And that's why they haven't brought it up in like 100 years is because they're like,
no, I keep saying mentioned.
James White did an interview like last week. Go away.
Talked about it.
People keep asking.
No.
Every James White video I watch, that question gets asked every single time.
I know. I hate it.
They're just reminding them. They're like, hey,
What,
hey.
Cody? I think it might be like combination of Runeblade not being so good anymore and like Wizards not getting a new card besides the one expansion slot in this set in like a year.
Getting better. Like I don't know. Like like this amp card like is cool, but you can't make a ton of wizard cards and expect Kano not to just dominate the format. And he's already like very good. He just won the Battle Hardened in or the call of calling in, was it Warsaw or so it was calling, right? Yeah, I think so.
It was something. Yeah.
Okay. Next question here from Rinzo. It says, after testing MST, what are the best 3 decks?
Oh,
And
easy.
then second question, what hero is the strongest in MST draft? So first question, what are the best 3 decks in the game right now?
I think it depends on who's piloting.
Yeah, that's a really tough question.
KO?
KO?
Okay,
KO is the best deck.
I think
what are you talking about?
definitely say KO is at least in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah. I mean, just go on Fabry. Look at the win rates.
Yeah.
That doesn't have MST heroes in it.
Yeah.
It's, sure.
The data is...
Wait, the best 3 MST heroes, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I don't think we're that far yet. Like that's.
I think it's a little too early to give a good... I wish I could give you a good answer to that.
I don't think it's Zen. I can say that.
Yeah. I
think he's pretty playable, but I don't think he's pushing top 3.
Yeah. I would be very surprised if there was a Zen in top 8 at US Nationals or US Nationals. In theory, it could win, but it just... I think
sounds like we need to do a tier list.
Need more time.
Yeah, it's too soon. Like everything's dependent on how good everything else is, right? Like, I don't know.
So we're not trying to hide anything. So like, I'll like clear that up. I just want no confusion. Like, I'm not like, oh, we know what the best 3 are, but we're not going to share them. Like, that's not what it is. I don't know what the best 3 are. We know KO right here. Like, up at the top, probably number 1. More than likely number 1. Definitely number 1. So because its matchup spread is just insane, and it basically has game into every deck that could ever exist because of just the nature of how it plays. And some of that, sometimes it's a 40%, and sometimes it's 60%, but it's somewhere in there. However, you just kind of lose 20% of your games by accident. So, these things happen. But KO is there. The rest of them, I have no idea, because what happens is
it's like 10 decks that like depends on the meta, depends on more testing. Sorry.
I was going to say, what happens is we'll be like, oh, new is top 3 right now. And then like 2 hours later, we're like, okay, now we found a way to counter that one thing that was like beating everyone. So now they've dropped down some pegs because now they're back down to 50%. At one point I was like, Riptide, best deck for sure. And then I was like, okay, Riptide, not best deck for sure. Like, it's just like, that's what keeps happening. It's like we enter, like a new person enters, does well, and then we like figure out how to beat that thing. And then we're like, okay, well, it's not there anymore. And that's just like constantly happening. So we have no top 3 to give. We just know KO 1.
Yeah, I guess
maybe 2, maybe KO 2.
KO
Not
is
3.
1 and 2.
Probably not 2, but maybe. That's the hope, right? That's why we're testing.
Yeah. And that's what I hope that you guys are, doing that same testing, because you can only learn so much in these short period of time. So hopefully we can give you a better answer 2 weeks from now.
Yep. What is the strongest MST draft hero?
Yeah.
So that's the strongest hero in draft. This is easy. In my opinion, this is the easiest question we've ever been asked.
We're saying like perfect deck Enigma?
No. I was going to say
the open one.
Oh, sure.
The open.
Agreed.
I honestly kind of feel that in this format. It's like the open hero is just like the best hero.
I don't know if it's always. I mean, the open hero is a 2 of, right? There's 2 people drafting that. It feels like when you have 3-3-2 and 2 is Enigma, if so far it feels balanced, but no one knows what they're doing. So like,
correct.
This isn't real data. But yeah, agreed. Whatever is best for your seat. I don't think there's like a force hero in this set. Like if there has to be, and you just want like a playable deck, it's Zen because the cards have Go again. But it's not going to be like a successful strategy. I don't think
it's not Fi.
No.
Yeah, Zen is definitely not Fi. Yeah.
No, you will do 4 card 9 to 10 damage most turns, but that's not very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, like if you're sitting down drafting and like whatever one the other people are not picking and you pick that one, you probably have the best deck.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think
And
that new tends to have just like the most blocking cards, and I like to block in limited. It's like that's the deck I probably would lean towards at the
Dude,
moment.
I think 2
But
block cards are insane in this set. Like
there are
every
some,
attack in the set is for 2.
there are some 2 block cards in this set that are good, but I don't know.
No, I just think blocking for 2 is strong. Like it's so weird.
It's fair.
Next question from Mike at Blackout Party. This is, what will the standard hero breakdown be for MST draft pool? And I think you mentioned what you think it is right now. But
Yeah. I mean, for now it makes sense, right? Like Enigma is clearly the harder one to figure out. Like, what are the good cards?
can you repeat what do you think it is currently?
Yeah. You'll have 3 new, 3 Zen, 2 Enigma.
Yeah.
But like right now it's early, so it makes sense. Like Enigma is hard to figure out, and like if someone gives me the signal that they took an Enigma card, it's like I'm not going to mess with that. But like the other ones, I don't mind challenging, right? So
It's
I
also
think it makes
'cause
sense to start.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
as I was gonna say, it also feels like because currently like half the Enigma cards feel bad. Like they just like feel like you don't want them.
They do until you play them. Like I did a draft where I forced, and I just took all the cards I thought was bad, so I could see like, okay, which am I wrong about? Like which works well with other bad cards. Like you could try that. It gave me some new like pockets of synergy to try to draft.
Yeah, I agree pretty much that it's Enigma is the least draftable one right now, but it's so early that I'm sure we'll figure it out and it'll change. But just being open is just really powerful. So
It might stay though. Like 2 feels appropriate to me right now for Enigma.
Mhm.
I think 1 Enigma that your deck is just
It
if you
should
know
be.
what you're doing, unstoppable.
Yeah.
Unless your draw sequence is just terrible.
Cool. Last question here from Oliganto. It says Zin's aggressive builds feel way too inconsistent. Is he just a worse Katsu for now?
Sadly, probably yes.
Like in the meta, probably.
Yeah.
In the way the deck plays, I think they're a little bit different. I haven't really played a lot of Zen, but I've been impressed with what the deck does.
Yeah,
I
like
think
go ahead.
I think the first half is correct. Like Zen's aggressive builds feel kind of inconsistent right now. I don't agree with the second part. You are not Katsu because you're playing a deck that doesn't care if your opponent blocks or not. And so like that has an inherent power to it. And Katsu is a deck that really cares how and when your opponent blocks. And the entire deck is just structured to try and get your opponent to block incorrectly one time throughout the whole game so that you can play the game. And this deck just doesn't care about that at all. And so in that case, I don't consider this even close to Katsu. Like these are completely 2 different decks to me in how they operate.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would try both. You'll probably like one playstyle over the other.
Yeah. The one thing that I'll say that Zen has over Katsu is the ability to have these little plink turns, like these crouching tiger turns that like add up, and then not only do like you get all this like kind of quote unquote free damage in these turns because they can just like never block these tigers ever. It's kind of like direct damage, and if you get it when they're in a spot where they're starting to block, then they probably lose. But like the tiger swipe, like all in type of thing, basically forces your opponent into these like, all right, I have to respect this card, otherwise I'm going to take another 8 damage or whatever from getting hit by this tiger swipe, and heaven forbid they can go over the top of you. So that's the one thing that I think Zen has over Katsu, because like Katsu doesn't have the ability to get this free damage in, because it'll usually only have like 1 tiger card, like if it was trying to do that thing. And heaven knows we tried to build that deck, and I played it a lot whenever it first came out, and it really only worked when your opponent didn't know what they were doing. So
yeah. Also, like Zen's weapon is like impossible to block. I swear. Like you'll never find a hand or a spot in the game where you think that blocking that stupid weapon that comes in for 2 is like actually a good idea. But you can't just take 2 every round.
That's why I like
and
drafting
then
2 blocks.
And then
So
you take
great.
the 1 off of the crouching tiger later in the turn. You're like, well, I guess I'm just taking 3 every time. And then like another crouching tiger comes in for 2 because of the gloves, like Shuko. And you're like, well, I'm not going to block 2 on this either. Like I'm not going to like arbor. There's no odd hits here. No, it's just damage. And so like you were saying, you just like take 5 free damage every round, and you're like, where'd my health go? Like what happened? So like, I think if you're playing Zen as like a full combo build, like that's fun and it can be very strong. But there's like this middle ground where like Zen works off like a 3-card hand in a way that like disincentivizes your opponent from blocking, and you just get all this free damage that kind of just adds up over the course of the game. And I think if someone could like figure out more of a way to be able to get value out of blocking with 1 card and then playing a 3-card hand, while still extending these turns out to get the free damage, there could be something there from like a value perspective that's a little bit more impressive. And then it would just occasionally have these giant pop-off turns that are not dependent at all on how your opponent's blocks, which I think is one of the advantages it gets away from Katsu. Cool. Well, that is us. We are running pretty long today, but I gotta go. It's hot in this room, and I would like to go play some more games. So goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're getting rid of the envelope
7
here, but
envelope.
What we could do
in
here is go ahead
darkness.
and play the envelope.
All 3 pitches of Envelope and Darkness.